Once again in the Hall of Honor, we show appreciation to Death March 4192, who assisted with a video copyright violation. I really am thankful for that from you. My basic training company had a wide variety of soldier trainees with about as diverse backgrounds as you could get. Before you go into the United States Army basic training, there's at least a few days where you're in processing. During this time, one guy got taken out because he had smoked pot within the last month, and the Army caught it in the urine test. He confidently told us not to worry, he'd be back after 6 months. There was a young man who literally freaked out while in basic training. We'll call him Jones, which wasn't his real name. I still laugh to myself when I think about the crazy things that I witnessed him doing. After a few weeks, the stress was getting to all of us, and Jones took it hard. People started noticing that he was acting strangely. One day, while we were all standing in formation in front of a wooden shed, the drill sergeant noticed that a few soldiers were looking around him at something. Jones was peeping around the corner of the shed, which was about 15 feet away from us. Then he would disappear. The drill sergeant slowly went over to investigate. By this time, Jones had moved and was looking at us around the other corner, and the drill sergeant snuck up behind him like he was hunting a deer. Then he suddenly yelled at Jones that he'd better get into formation right now, in no uncertain terms, and Jones ran over as fast as he could. It was something that could have come straight out of a comic book. But that wasn't the end of the story for Jones, who started speaking in a strange manner, and even the drill sergeants were getting wary of him. The last time I saw Jones in the barracks, it was, I believe, a Sunday. He was running around with a strange high voice with toilet paper rolls, bowling them like you would a bowling ball and saying things like, "Yippee! Yippee!" I knew right then and there that Jones had cracked, which was a fear for many of us, with all the stress we were under at the time. Jones hung around for another week, but the drill sergeants wouldn't let him fire on the range or even handle a weapon. The last time I saw Jones, he was doing post duties while being cashiered out of the Army. In the past, and I doubt it's changed, if a trainee wanted out of the Army after being in basic training for about 3 weeks or so, that trainee would probably stay longer on post than the rest of the graduating company. Whether that was by design or not, it was a good thing to keep some trainees from quitting and on the right path. As I stated before, there were a lot of different types in my training platoon. One guy had a pot belly and was only 17 years old, and already had 2 kids with 2 different women. He was a nice guy, and by the end of basic, we congratulated him because he'd lost all his belly fat. Another trainee didn't like to take showers. Trainees started noticing, and the drill sergeants had to order him to shower. Even though he did start taking showers, that reputation stuck with him. Before we go further, 2 things need to be explained. One is the front-leaning rest position, and the other is Army slang called being smoked. The front-leaning rest position is where your body is in the position to do the push-up, but not actually doing the push-up. You are just in a ready state to do the push-up. You wouldn't think that this takes much effort at first, but if you aren't in shape, it's an exercise by itself. If you are ever thinking about going into the Army, I highly recommend you try this for a few days and see what you think of it, because you'll be doing it a lot, every day, sometimes for hours off and on. The second concept is being smoked. This is where you decide to stand out as an individual and do your own thing in view of a nearby drill sergeant. This drill sergeant will pull you out of formation, and usually in front of everyone, will make you their example of what happens to free thinkers like yourself. They will demand that you do so many push-ups, scream in your face, and then mix up your exercises, and then mix them up again. You'll wonder why the local mental health facility let this one out. Dust and sweat will be flying, and you will ache worse than ever. You may even go until your muscles fail you, but then it'll get mixed up again. At this point, you'll understand that the drill sergeant means business, and then he'll order you back into formation to do the regular physical training. We had a few guys that like to mix things up, and I don't mean that in a good way. A typical example would be when we were in formation, and the drill sergeant would order us into the front-leaning rest position. You are expected to be in that position until the drill sergeant gets tired of it, which could be a while. So these guys like to play with the drill sergeant and force us all to do more push-ups. The drill sergeant would yell something like, "If everyone's quiet for a minute, and still," meaning no one drops their knees, then we can all go inside. Mind you, we're all in the front-leaning rest position this entire time. Sure enough, when it got close to the minute mark, one of the jokers would yell out a question to the drill sergeant like, "Hey, drill sergeant, are we done yet?" And sure enough, the drill sergeant would say, "No, I guess we ain't." Then there'd be a collective groan and then more and more push-ups. But then it would happen again, and then later again. Oh, the memories. What you think will happen in Army basic training isn't always what actually happens. Before I went in, I had heard somewhere that drill sergeants would take the time to explain how to brush your teeth. But in reality, one of mine explained to the platoon how to correctly deal with prostitutes. We won't go into the details about that though. One of the drill sergeants had a very strange American accent that to this day I don't know where it was from. He clipped his words, which were fast and tight. He liked to use little quirky phrases to us, like, "Your foot is short and stubby." One of the drill sergeants said something negative about Puerto Rico, which I won't repeat, but he said it in front of Puerto Ricans and/or Dominicans, who immediately after privately said to the rest of us that they didn't like what he had said at all. Sometimes we were out in the snow for a very long time, and it seemed like the drill sergeants forgot about us, or didn't know where we were, because we were so spread out. I actually enjoyed that, because it was like a break. We had an old airborne Pathfinder drill sergeant who smoked a lot and was near retirement. Every so often on the run, he would circle us around to supposedly gather the stragglers, but I secretly suspected that he couldn't run as much because of the smoking, and this gave him the break that he needed. For fun, one drill sergeant let go of a hand grenade fuse without the explosive while we were all gathered inside of a building. Wow, that shrill pop I have never forgotten. It would have woken up a hibernating bear. There was once a piece of advice that a drill sergeant told me that I appreciated and have never forgotten. Soldiers had to shop at the local businesses around post or else they would disappear. Once we were standing in formation and someone shot off a blank long after being in the field. Usually there was a check, and I'm not sure what happened there. He got smoked, as mentioned earlier. You couldn't watch your laundry all the time, and I got some PT pants stolen, and someone gave me an extra pair out of the kindness of his heart. When you were being in processed, the drill sergeants asked if there was any information that they might need to know about. I told them that I had had insomnia at times. They laughed and said they didn't think that'd be a problem here. But you know, even getting sometimes just a little sleep at night and being exhausted, there were nights when I still had insomnia, which surprised me. We were in basic training in the snowy winter. A sergeant major occasionally came out to review us and show off. After a while, one of my company noticed that he was always one layer less of clothing than the weather called for. So if it were snowing and everyone else had a full jacket on, then he would have a double layer of clothes but no jacket. One big surprise for most of us was that we had to go into a gas chamber and inhaled tear gas. It won't cause permanent damage, and it's supposed to get you used to dealing with it. After you leave the chamber, you'll have tears running down your face, your nose will be stopped up, and you'll be walking like a zombie. Other drill sergeants loved watching this and laughing. This was an amazing sort of amusement for them. When we went to the grenade range, and I am absolutely not kidding you about this, the walls had shrapnel marks, a lot of them. The stories that I had heard about how they got there, if I was told and remember correctly, were that two soldiers at different times had had life-threatening experiences with grenades. One pulled the pin, let go of the lever, and froze, and the fully armored drill sergeant had to intervene and it went off. Another threw the grenade live, but didn't throw it over the small wall, which was only about 4 feet high or so. It bounced in the open chamber and exploded. I don't believe anyone died or was seriously hurt in either case, or else the drill sergeant probably would have told us. With so much stress and lack of information, rumors were bound to spread. There were rumors about young women and men making out and probably more in phone booths, but I have no direct knowledge of that. One soldier told us that we could get out of the army if we won the lottery or had $1 million in the bank. Like either one of these cases would happen to us. This was after just barely starting training. We were all so stressed, and some more than others, that some were dreaming for a way out. Bivouac for soldiers is somewhat like camping, soldier style, sleeping out in the field for 3 days. While we were on bivouac, I seem to remember there was a temporary panic because the soldier lost his weapon. There was a mad search for it all over. As a soldier, you are never to lose your weapon. You will eat with it. You will sleep with it. You will name it. I named mine Violet, which is a twist on violence. All I knew was, it wasn't me, and I had to pity the poor soldier who lost his weapon, even for a few minutes. The drill sergeants probably smoked him like he'd never seen. Once in a while, a movie is based on real life, which mirrored what really happened to me while we were on bivouac. In the movie Platoon, Charlie Sheen has to wake up Junior while it's raining. Junior acts like he's awake for his guard shift, but then he promptly falls back to sleep. While my company was on bivouac, every hour during the night, a soldier had to get out of his warm sleeping bag, get into his muddy boots, and patrol for an hour in the snow. Then he had to wake up his replacement. The problem was that my replacement didn't want to wake up, so I had to shake him to get him up. People are strange when they sleep, and you never know if fists are going to start flying when the person wakes up. I gave the drill sergeants a lot of crap in this video, but for the most part, they did their job and they did it well. I do appreciate all the good work that they put into training us for our futures. Here's one for the drill sergeants. Tell your boot camp basic training stories in the comments section.